Hello, everybody. Happy, wonderful Wednesday. I hope that you are well today. Listen, I am super excited to join you for this much needed conversation today. This discussion is centered around all about proactive property management, inspections, and repairs. But let me tell you why I'm excited. I'm excited because I have a panel of some amazing women that's joining me today, and we're going to dive deep on this conversation. I'm going to share a video of a housing inspection that took place recently, and then we're going to get right into the discussion, the conversation, because one of the things that I do recognize and understand is that in the rental community, whether it's for landlords, whether it's for tenants, that an educated rental community, it always works better when we're all learning, we're growing, and we're sharing together. We all have a role to play. We all have a part in this thing. And so as a housing professional, as a landlord and tenant expert, as a property management or a housing educator, I'm so passionate about sharing with others. And so today's conversation is all about that. And so I implore you, I encourage you, if you have comments, questions, remarks, or observations, please throw it in the comment section. I'm currently live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're watching the replay, thank you. I'm Karissa Spann. This is what I do usually every Monday, but today was a very important day. So we had to come on live and share from our thoughts and share our views on this much needed subject. All right. Is that okay? So let me know where you're tuned in from. Show me some love in the comment section. Say, hey, girl, hey. And if you have questions for myself or the panel as they come on, please don't be afraid. Please let us know. Please feel free to ask questions. Please feel free to chime in. And I will say this, that the information that I share today, it's not legal advice. You're going to hear from my guests on the panel today, and what we share are our own individual views. Okay. I'm not an attorney. Okay. So let me just put that disclaimer out there. And also, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go to YouTube. There you can find me, Landlord Life with Karissa Spann. Okay, so I'm excited to bring on my panel guest today. I am bringing them on and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. So give me one moment as they are coming into the room. I see them coming in now. There's Tiffany, LaDeja. I see Marquita. I see Danielle. I see Tatiana. And I see Tanya. Hello, ladies. Hello, ladies. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Hello, Miss
Hello.
Spann.
Hey.
Thank you for having
Hello.
us.
Yes, I can hear you fine.
All
Yes.
right, awesome. So before we get started, let's do a quick introduction. I'm going to start with
I
Tiffany,
can't hear nothing she's
then
saying.
LaDeja, then Marquita, then Danielle. Then I'm going to have Tatiana and then Tanya to come on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany Moody. Just a little small tidbit about myself. I was really interested in property management, and I've always been interested in real estate since a very young age. And growing up in the DC area, in the southern region of DC, I've been in different apartments and experienced different landlords growing up, and I just want to educate myself so that I could share with my family, share with them their rights and just things that they need to know to abstain, their mental health when living in apartments, because when you're living in a certain area, it takes a toll on you, right? Like growing up in the southeast area, it took a mental toll on me, and I just want to be able to share that with others. Like what rights do you have as a tenant who lives in a property that you're leasing and paying rent for? So I look forward to gaining more knowledge and sharing knowledge as well.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. LaDeja.
Hey, I'm Ladesha, your future real estate agent. This is my ultimate goal. Um, I'm I'm trying to do property manager as a star process. Um, and love Miss Spann class, and she's been teaching us for this past month, and I just like the experience.
Thank you so much, beautiful Marquita. You're up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marquita. I am a UDC student with Miss Spann. Thank you. Um, I enjoy and I would like to become a property manager, hopefully soon, and also a veterinarian at the same time. I'm so excited to be learning everything from this course. I'm very, very blessed.
Awesome. Happy to have you here. Thank you so much, Danielle.
So, okay. Hello, my name is Danielle. I was born and raised in DC, and I am a aspiring leasing professional. Yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. Happy to have you here, Tatiana. You're up next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Professor Spann, for having me here. I'm a UDC student in Professor's leasing to property management course. I am switching my career field from medical administration. I have a certification in medical billing and coding, but I've always been interested in, property management. I've always helped people look for apartments and when they move to the area, and I'm good with resources about the area. I'm a Washingtonian. And I'm just excited to be here to learn a little bit more about leasing and property management from Professor Spann. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Happy to have you here, Tanya. Can you hear us okay? Tanya? All right, looks like she's having some challenges. Tanya, are you there? Can you hear us? We can see you. We can hear you. Can you hear us, Tanya? All right. So we'll come back to Tanya, let her give her introduction. And so for those of you who don't know, like I said, I'm a property management housing educator. Tanya, are you there? Can you hear us? Tanya, can you hear us okay? All right, so she's having some technical challenges. We'll try to get her back on in a little bit. And so I'm excited to have all of you here today because we are talking about proactive property management, inspections and repairs, and what does that mean? So for those of you who are in the chat box, thank you so much. Let me acknowledge some people who I see. All right, and then we're going to get into the discussion, the conversation. Hello, Moody Manda. Good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, Miss Harrell. Hello, hello. Good evening, Eminem. All right. Hello, hello, Miss Norwood. So good to have you on. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, Cherry. So good to see you on. All right, well versed. Hello, hello. I see you, Carrie. All right. Hello, Lolisa. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, Tatiana. Hey, y'all. All right, so let me keep going, Cherry. Okay, DC. Okay. Miss Nova said, hey, girl. Hey, that's right. Listen, I'm excited because we have a serious lineup today. Lady, she said, you all look good. Hello, ladies. Hey. All right, so we have a serious lineup today, and we have a lot to cover. And so we're going to get right into it. But here is what I want you all to know, that these ladies who are on this panel today, although they are students, they are Some are already in the industry, but they have a lot of value to add, which is why we're here having this conversation today. Here's our first comment. I believe this link will be useful to some of you if you have a slum landlord. So we're going to share information for landlords today, but we're also sharing information for tenants. Okay. Hey, Darius, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm happy to have you here. See my students, they are chiming in the comment section. Thank you so much. Hey, Ms. Blunt, thank you so much. Happy to have you here. So let me try to do this. I want to share a video. So there was a video that I shared, and I want to see if I can bring that up on the screen. So give me one moment as I do that. And as we are, I think I missed a comment. Hey, Ms. Barnes, I see you. Okay, I see you, Ms. Barnes. Okay, so before we get started, Tiffany, I want you to share from your perspective why it's important for landlords as well as tenants to tune in to this panel discussion today.
I feel like it's very important for landlords and tenants to see our discussion today because we're going to be discussing major things that they need to know, right? You have people in the near future who want to be landlords, and you have a lot of us who are already current tenants. And the main thing is knowing your laws, knowing your rights and regulations, and how to go about enforcing your laws and your rights and regulations.
All right, awesome. So let me do this. Let me share my screen. I'm going to share a video. I want you all to see this video, and then we're going to chime in on what we see. And if you are in the, whether you're watching us by way of Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, I want your feedback as well. So give me 1 second as I share this video for today. All right, so let's talk about that video. I'll pull it up again, but let's talk about that video, because in that video, it was a lot. It was a lot going on. Danielle, I'm going to start with you. What did you notice in that video? Was there anything odd? Was it something that stood out?
A lot stood out from that video, all the way down to where was the front door. Just the cleanliness of the property, things that were missing from the unit. It was a lot. It was a lot.
So Tatiana, I know that we talked about this. I see your comments coming in. I'm gonna come to your comments in a section in the chat box. But Tatiana, I know that we had some conversation about housing inspections, maintenance, things that are important for tenants to know, but also things that are important for landlords to know. I'm going to start with you first. From your perspective, what do you think landlords should know from that video? What is something that you believe is the most important thing? If you could identify one thing, what would that be that landlords should know? Tatiana, I think you're muted. Can anybody hear? Okay, so Tatiana,
I can't hear you.
No.
give me 1 second. Okay, try it again, Tatiana. All right. Try it again, Tatiana. Maybe go out and come back in, but we can't hear you. I see that you're unmuting your device, but we still don't hear you. So we'll come back to the 5-star leasing professional. All right, Marquita. If given what we just saw in that video, if you could identify one thing that landlords should know, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. So, one thing landlords should know, I feel like they should know to inspect their property like frequently, because I feel like a lot of things could have been caught if they did like I would say quarterly inspections. Um, because a lot of landlords don't keep up on their tenant inspections. They keep up on like the building itself, but just not the individual homes.
Okay, that's good feedback. Thank you for that. All right, so I see Cherry's comment. Cherry said, wow, to that video. Cherry had a question here. What happened to the stove and the fridge? That is a good question. Elisa said, right, no front door is crazy. Eminem says, was the appliances taken? Yeah, it was definitely filthy. Ms. Bond says, I feel like both owner and tenant neglected this home. Listen, that's a good point. I'm going to pause right here, and then I'm going to come back to Darius. I see Darius's comment. Here's what I believe. So because we're sharing information for landlords as well as for tenants, I strongly believe that landlords have a responsibility to not just to provide housing that's decent, safe, and sanitary, but also to make sure that if, for instance, if they are managing a property for someone else, they should be assessing or inspecting a rental property so that they'll know the condition. And when that does not happen, they don't know that there are some issues going on in a rental property. So yeah, the landlord is definitely responsible, but then also the tenant is responsible. But then here's my question. What if the tenant doesn't know the importance of cleaning up or how to clean up? Is it the tenant's responsibility? And is it their responsibility to do something or to be expected to do something that they don't know how to do? Maybe nobody ever told them or showed them how to clean up. So, absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, so like coming from like a background like my mom, the neat freak, like so it's just something that you just know. Like it's no way I'm going, no matter like how disrespectful my landlord was, or how the course of the years went of me being a tenant at a property, it just still falls back on your character. Why would I leave a home that I know that didn't give me no respect? At the end of the day, but why would I leave the home like dirty? Because it just falls back on you just as a character, and it just shows you like, oh, you just a nasty person at heart. Like, cause somebody stoop low to you doesn't mean you stoop lower and just leave your previous house like that.
That's a good point. I like that.
Also, I want to say It's a thing why they do deposit, because you came into a clean, well put together house, and then when you leave at the end of your lease, I want the house back in return the way you came in. So that's why as a deposit, they know if it's signed or written in the lease also.
That's a good point. I do like that. I see that Tatiana is back. I see that Tanya is here. Tanya, can you hear us okay? Tanya, we can hear you. Can you hear us? All right, so we'll come back to Tanya. I know that Tatiana was about to chime in before she logged off, and now that you're back, Tatiana, did you want to chime in real quickly here? Her audio is out again. All right, so we want to keep trying to. So Tatiana, see if you could work through the audio issue there. Listen, this is just normal. Don't be surprised. Things happen. This is technology. All right. The audio was just working fine. And all of a sudden it's not. So we're going to keep moving on with the conversation here. So Darius has a comment here. Darius said, how the unit is being kept up. That's so important because we're talking about housing inspections, right? We're talking about the need for frequent housing inspections. And to Darius' point here, if a landlord or a housing provider, property manager, if you will, is not conducting frequent housing inspections, how do they know how the unit is being kept up? And that's a good point. I love that, Darius. Shanetta said that there was a lot of residue from the stove and refrigerator. Cherry said she can't imagine what it looked like before. I can't either. Absolutely. The landlord should know the condition of the house. And that's why, listen, I say it over and over, time and time again, that housing inspections are so important. Because being a property manager, being a housing professional is so much more than collecting money at the beginning of the month. So yeah, I definitely agree.
And Professor, can I add to that really quickly?
Absolutely.
I was just thinking as you said that, like, people rent out homes, like their house and things like that all the time. So I'm like, just because you're renting out your house, that does not mean that you don't have to go for an inspection as well. Like just how, some people who live in apartments, I'm not sure how every apartment complex is. They have an annual inspection. It should be the same thing if you're leasing out your house, because if something like this were to happen, you're going to seek additional help to navigate that issue of what the tenant did, but you're not holding up your end of the bargain either.
Okay. That's a good point. That's a good point. Go ahead, Danielle.
I do want to chime in here about the original statement as far as should a tenant know to keep that clean. I think also what some am I still on camera?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just got big. I'm sorry. I was confused. Okay. With some landlords, I think they can take the extra mile. Because some people do know how to clean, but you do have some people that do like that sense of cleanliness or just knowing how to exit an apartment correctly, because it could potentially be their first apartment ever, or they just don't really know how to exit. I think what they can do is they can probably like put YouTube links on either via emails on tenants that are moving out, just to let them know, hey, I know your lease is ending and I know you're moving out, but here's some tips and tricks that you can take to, just keep the unit clean and things like that. I think that's also something good that landlords can do, just providing extra information just to also cover themselves and their unit as well.
I do like that. Thank you so much. Now, how often would you suggest that a landlord conduct a housing inspection? Anybody?
Every
Every
3 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months, I believe,
I
for
say
sure.
3.
Every 6 months.
And
This new
honestly, yeah, I
generation,
think every three, it should be every 3 months, honestly, too, because we have each unit, to my understanding, should have an air conditioning system. And while you're checking those units, you should also be replacing the filters in those units. And I think that is like about a 3 month. 6 months is kind of like a stretch, but a 3 month, yeah, it should definitely it should happen.
So you're saying quarterly inspections. I know that before we jumped on, somebody said that landlords should check the rental property not less than once or twice a year. Because here's the thing, you may be surprised to know that some landlords, some property managers are not conducting inspections at all. At all. They don't know the condition of the property. Some will sit in the office or home or wherever they work from and not conduct inspection. How do they know what repairs are needed? What's your thought on
Um,
that?
I agree.
I think with the yearly, oh, with the yearly, I think it just depends on the type of property. Just piggybacking off of what Tiffany said. If I am renting out my home, that means I probably vetted out the person that is renting from me. So I will probably have a little bit more trust in them. So I may do like a yearly there, just because if I'm renting out to someone, it's probably a family. I don't want to interrupt them every 3 to 6 months, just trying to pop in and do some inspections. I think a year may work there, but with apartment complexes, it needs to happen more regularly.
I
Anybody?
but
agree because they turn a blind eye, like in certain areas, right? They turn a blind eye to what's going on in the unit. Like they might know that everybody is having this similar issue. Like let's say, for example, like pest issues. They might know that several units are complaining about mice or roaches or anything, mold or anything going on in their apartment. So a lot of them avoid inspections for that reason alone because they don't want to address the common issue.
That is a
eh,
good point. Thank you.
I feel like a lot of people are comfortable. That's like the main thing, comfortability. A lot of people are getting comfortable, not just tenants but landlords as well. Like they're comfortable with not having the owner pop up every 6 months to a year, and just doing like a little walkthrough with the property manager. Or a lot of tenants are getting comfortable with the landlords not doing the inspection like they supposed to do when they first signed the lease. So it's about like and I understand like people do rent out their houses and stuff to their family members, but that's the big thing is rent, that you don't own. So like the goal is to rent to own. You get what I'm saying? So um I say like a big part of it is comfortability. Like, you gotta be uncomfortable sometimes, and that's how you get things done, when you're uncomfortable and standing up on your toes.
Here's why I can appreciate that,
Oh,
Marquita, because tenants tenants see the landlord's pattern of not conducting inspections, that's the standard. Like that landlord or that property manager has now set the tone and is giving a really bad, I call it a red flag. Like they're sending a red flag early on saying, hey, I don't really care about the property. I don't care enough to come and inspect it. I don't care enough to send somebody else there to inspect it. And so the tenant is like, oh, well, my landlord doesn't care. They're not going to come and make repairs. They're not going to come and do inspections. So I can just do whatever I want. And so to your point, Marquita, I definitely agree with you on that. Did anybody else want to chime in?
yeah. I also want to piggyback what Marquita said about they getting comfortable. Maybe because I feel like landlords, they don't want to do anything because they know y'all signed an agreement, lease. So with the laws and regulation, if you don't do this by the end of your lease, they can send you to court. You can get bad credit after that. get charged with your credit. So that's another thing why they don't do anything. They know that they could sue you also.
That's so true. Now, I like Cherry's comment. Let me pull this back up on the screen for us. Cherry said, everywhere they go, they'll do the same thing. Would you agree with this comment here?
Yes, of
Yeah, I
course.
agree.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, it's learned behavior, and any behavior that's uncorrected, right? So this is why I strongly believe in educating tenants. So, for instance, the inspection that I did yesterday, now that was of a vacant unit, but if I'm conducting inspections of a tenant's home and I see, witness, and experience a tenant living like that, we're having a conversation while I'm in that unit. Like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? Because now sometimes people, just studying human psychology, people do things for two reasons. I've said it before, I'll say it again, either because they don't know or because they don't care. Now, for the tenants who don't care, that's an opportunity for me to help them understand why it's important for them to take care of their home. As a matter of fact, we had a comment that we wanted to share for tenants. We talked about housekeeping, why housekeeping is important, because maintaining a clean home is better for anybody who's living in that space. Sometimes, though, here's what I want you to think about. Sometimes, if you are conducting a housing inspection and if you see a tenant's place looking like that, they could potentially also have some sort of mental health um, sickness or something going on. Because with mental health, depression, things like that can cause it can cause a lot of um, kind of surface. So you see it on the surface level, but you don't really know the root of the problem. And so with mental health, usually you'll see a tenant's home where it's never clean, it's dirty, it's trash all over the place. They have a bed, but maybe they sleep in the living room, maybe they sleep on the floor, they throw trash everywhere, it's smelly, it's really dark. And in those type of situations, please always be careful, because you can't help someone if there's some sort of mental health condition. So yes, we can do our part by educating tenants and providing them resources and letting them know if there are any services available that we may know of. But if it's a mental health issue, that's not really a whole lot that we could do to help them with that.
May I chime in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So with the tenant and landlord relationship, I feel like a lot of landlords should do evaluations. I know when I was in Job Corps, like of course, like we live on campus, but we did evaluations with our residential advisors, the ones that stay in the cubicles, and they would just come and talk to us and say, "Hey, how are you doing? You know, do you need anything? Do you need clean sheets, clothes? I don't know, a razor to shave your underarms. Like, do you need anything like?" Or is there anything in your room that needs to be inspected? Like, is the AC not blowing correctly? Like, I feel like not just inspections should be a thing, but evaluations with your tenants. Like, you can take at least a week out of the month, or 2 months or 3 months of everything, and say, you know what, let me interact with some of my tenants. Let me have like a little field day or something with my tenants to get to know them a little bit. Because once you get them to get comfortable with you as a landlord, I feel like a lot of people will start opening up to you more. So they could say, you know what, even though you my landlord, I know, even though we built this relationship, and I know you're not just my friend, you're my landlord as well. But let me come to you because maybe you can help me. I've been sleeping on the floor since I moved in because I don't have enough money to pay my rent and also buy me a new bed. Is there some way that you can help me with that? You never know if you don't open your mouth, you know?
That's a good point. I do like that, because I do know, and I see your comments coming in. And here's a question here. We're going to address that before we move on. But here is something that I have done as a housing provider, and having been in property management for well over 20 plus years. I have helped tenants who were not financially able to do for themselves. I have purchased clothing, I have purchased food, I've assisted with getting tenants furniture. I've paid application fees because I recognize that sometimes people just need help. Sometimes people just genuinely do not have it. And so you're right to that. There are a lot of good landlords who have a heart and do want to help. All landlords are not bad people, right? And so sometimes that's the narrative that's being painted. That's the kind of like that's the picture that some tenants will portray, like, oh, my landlord is the worst, my landlord is the devil, and they don't make any repairs. Now, while that may be true for some, that's not the story for all landlords. But let's take a look at Cherry's question here. She's asking, so if it's a mental health tenant, then do they get a pass at being messy? Absolutely not. But I like that and I can appreciate that question. No, they don't get a pass, and I'm not saying that they should get a pass. However, what I am saying is that if we know that there are some health issues, some mental health issues, or if we know that they are disabled, because mental health is a disability, if we know that they are disabled, we can still enforce the lease, but it's always going to be in our best interest to try to reach out if that tenant has maybe a caseworker or a case manager. Maybe reach out to see if the case manager could get involved, right? But if that tenant is in that rental property, let's say you have someone, true story, had a tenant who had mental health issues. And before they moved into the apartment, they were homeless, like they lived outside. They were used to lighting fires to keep warm in the wintertime. And so in the living room of that apartment, they would light a fire because that's what they were used to doing. Now, to the average person without a disability, that may seem excessive. Like, why would they light a fire? Like, don't they know that's wrong? Well, not if that's what they're used to, right? And so when we know better, we do better. And so that's why it's important to be educated on the front end as housing professionals and housing providers, as landlords and property managers, assistant managers, leasing professionals, leasing agents. It's our responsibility to be educated so that we'll know how to best help these tenants. Now, fortunately for that tenant and in that situation, it did not end up as bad as it could have gone, because the whole place could have gone up in smoke. And fortunately, there were other tenants in the building who smelled smoke, knocked on the door, got the tenant out, called the police department. I'm sorry, the fire department. The fire department did come and put the fire out. And fortunately, somebody was there. But now let's just say this tenant did it at 2-3 o'clock in the morning where maybe everybody's asleep, right? So that's why it's important to know how to handle situations. But no, they don't get a pass, Cherry, to answer your question. All right. Hello, Lynette. Thank you so much for tuning in from Charlotte. Love it, love it, love it. Eminem says, some don't know. That is so true. Some people legit just don't know. They don't know how to not go back to the behavior or the only thing that they've always only known. And I have seen, and I'm gonna come back to you. Who is that? I'm gonna come back to you. All right, I'm gonna come back to you, Marquita. And I have seen generations of people who, from the grandmama to the mama to the daughter to the granddaughter, the same lifestyle, never cleaned. So grandmama didn't tell her daughter didn't tell her child. And so sometimes you'll see these generational, these cycles of things that's happening because nobody ever took time to explain the importance of doing something different. Go ahead. Who is that, Marquita?
Yes. I do have a question. It's going to be funny, but I have a question. So, okay. So I do have one little thing. I have seen a person, okay, they was about to move out, but you know how you have renters insurance? Well, people supposed to have renters insurance. They lit their house on fire. Well, their apartment on fire. They were supposed to move out, I think it was between 4 or 6 months before the fire, but they supposed to have moved out, and they lit their apartment on fire just to get the insurance money. How does that go about with, like, far as the landlord and tenant situation?
Great question. So, of course, let's see here. I'm looking at some of the comments that I missed in the chat box. So, the fire inspector, their responsibility is to assess where the fire originated, and if it's detected that it was intentionally, if it was arson, they could go to jail for that. Lolisa has a comment here. She said insurance fraud. Absolutely. You can go to jail for that. I wouldn't recommend it. Will Verse says, oh, yeah, that's definitely fraud. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And I, oh, sorry. Yeah. And I just want to chime in here also. That isn't a smart decision, because if you think about it, you're a renter in someone else's property. So the only thing you'll really get paid out for is the property that was in the unit. So and you probably only had $50,000 of rental insurance. So what was the actual point?
A lot
That
of
part.
people do dumb things for, like, stupid reasons. A lot of people just try to think, oh yeah, I'm getting over, when all reality you're not getting over.
You cannot, insurance is a finesser. So you cannot finesse a finesser. Okay. I need people to know that. It's a scam.
Say that again.
Insurance is a finesser. So you cannot finesse the finesser.
All right. So I like Tiffany's comment. Being proactive with your landlord, it is definitely important. So let's go to some tips, because we do have some tips that we want to share today. We have tips for landlords. We have tips for tenants. We talked about the importance of conducting housing inspections more or not less than once or twice a year. Here's another tip that we have for tenants. For landlords, it's important that you respond to your tenant complaints. If a tenant makes a complaint, they tell you that something is wrong, take care of it. Reach out to them, let them know, hey, I received your complaint. Thank you for calling. Thank you for texting. Thank you for emailing me about your leaky faucet. We're going to have someone to come and take care of it right away. If it's something, maybe the AC went out. That's a big thing in the summertime. This summer was really, really bad. And I know that a lot of landlords had AC units that went down in rental properties all throughout the United States, but definitely in the DMV area. Like this year was like one of the worst years for AC units. And sometimes it's beyond your control if you don't have the parts, if you don't have a replacement readily available. As a landlord, just tell the tenant, hey, listen, we have to order you a new unit, or maybe we have to order a part. We're going to provide you with a temporary AC unit or a window unit or something. But communicating with your tenants is always the best thing to do. Here's another tip that we identified. It would be definitely in the landlord's best interest to know this. Know what the laws are. Know legally what you can and cannot do. Here's another tip we thought was important for landlords to know. Why is it important to respond in a timely manner? Not just for maintenance, but for any reason. Always respond to your tenants timely, because you never know the urgency of that situation. We talked about how important it is for landlords to stay abreast of housing codes. For instance, if the smoke detector is not in the bedroom or wherever it's supposed to be, as a landlord, you need to know these things. We also talked about rent increases. They should be fair. We had some very interesting discussions and conversations about rent increases as to why landlords are continuing to request rent increases, but they're not adding more value for tenants in a property. And so there's a request. When, as a landlord, you're increasing your rent every year, and many of you have not, but you should or could, make it fair. Are you improving the quality of the home? Are you maintaining the home? Are you providing pest control services, or are you just increasing the rent? These are just some things to consider. We also talked about how good it would be for landlords to provide an evacuation plan. So if an emergency happens, if a fire breaks out, it's always good on the front end. So meaning that maybe when a tenant moves in, provide as much information, like if there's, in case of an emergency, if there's a fire, here is the evacuation plan for the rental property. We also talked about the importance of addressing safety issues. This was definitely a big concern. Was this yours, Tatiana? Is this something that you shared? I see that Tatiana is back. Okay, we still can't hear you, Tatiana, but I think this
Yeah,
was
she did share that, and I piggyback about the evacuation plan.
okay. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So safety issues could go far along with not having an exit strategy when there's emergency or fire emergency. I see a lot of videos that I know y'all see too, that people jumping out windows when there's a fire next to their next door neighbor in their house. I feel like it should be a more safety hazard, coming future for apartments or houses. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. We talked about the importance of having those community meetings. So I think it was you, Marquita, who mentioned, maybe you or Tiffany. I apologize, I don't
Yeah.
remember. But there was a conversation about landlords getting involved and engaged more with the tenants. That's where community meetings come into play, especially if it's a large apartment building, right? So if it's just like a single family house, that's different. But if it's a multifamily property, then I always recommend and encourage landlords to do something for tenants, some sort of community event, a community meeting. So you are definitely on point. Marquita, did you want to add anything to that before we share some tips for tenants?
I just say it's just very important. I say even for single family homes, I feel like that's important too, just to get everybody like on the same page because people are quick to say, "Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I don't remember you saying that," or "We never discussed that." Like a lot of people are so used to like doing those type of things. So I think everyone should just be on top of definitely conversing with everyone, making sure everybody's on the same page. Everyone have like everyone either lease or agreement is just up to date, and no special tactics.
Okay, I like that. All right, let's go to our next tip. I see your comments coming in, but now we have some tips for tenants. So we talked about housekeeping for tenants, but here is something else, understanding housing regulations. Who wants to chime in on this one here? I think this was, I think
I
this was,
do.
go ahead.
I think it's very important to understand your housing regulations because you can be in a situation where your landlord is totally, you know, overstepping your rights as a tenant. And if you don't know what your rights are, you would definitely continue to be misguided and frustrated when you are experiencing these things and going through these things with your landlord.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you so much, Tiffany. All right, we talked about the importance for tenants to understand that they are responsible for their guests. So something happens, let's say they're guests, they have some visitors, they come over, a fight breaks out in the hallway, the property is damaged, a window is busted out, a hole is, a large body hole is mysteriously in the wall, right? Is it the landlord's responsibility or is it the tenant's responsibility? Is the tenant responsible for their guests?
Yes. The
100%.
tenant's responsible for the guests, but the landlord is responsible for doing an investigation on what actually happened to their property and reaching out to the tenant. So it goes hand in hand, I feel.
It does go hand in hand. And to that, I would add that as housing providers are conducting inspections, make sure they get a police report. Now, owners of property managers, they have a role to play as well. And I believe that enforcing the lease is definitely important. So one of the things that I'm big on, and I tell landlords this all the time, as well as tenants, if you see something, say something, right? Because not taking action that's always the worst thing that can happen. All right, so let's keep going here. We have some more tips for tenants. Here's another one. Paying rent on time. It's always important.
Yes. Paying your rent on time is supposed to help take care of the building. It may not always happen that way, but when you pay it on time, that's what's supposed to happen.
Paying
And
rent on
then,
time also give you a good reputation from your landlord, and it just show your character also.
That's so true.
and if
Marquita, were you?
you, and yeah. And if you just can't, if you feel as though you need help with like rent, you do like people have to dig into resources. Don't be afraid to just ask for help. Say, just look up within your area, what can help you pay your rent. You know, it's a lot of programs for moms, even fathers,
Definitely good
because
credit.
not all with just moms, but with dads as well. There's a lot of programs out here that can help you pay your rent.
That's a good
Or
point.
I would say, oh yes, or I would say even reaching out to your leasing office, because you do have some leasing agencies now that do offer paying your rent twice, which it'll break up the payments for you. So it will be a lot easier. So yes, I think saying something is better than just waiting till the last minute. Just let someone know and ask for the help, and it is available.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. All right. We had another tip for tenants on today. Respecting the neighbors. I see Marquita. Go ahead, Marquita.
I was just saying, yes, that's the biggest one. That's the biggest one. It's a pet peeve living in Southeast. It's a pet peeve. Okay, I'm a Northeast baby, but it's just be respectful. Like, do not. Nobody wants to smell your smoke. Nobody wants to know that you're drinking whiskey every night. Nobody wants to hear the turn up. Like, and not everybody wants to little critters coming in their house. Like, you don't want to come into a clean house and then next thing you know you got kill like a camel spider. I don't know if anybody know what that is, but camel spiders or like beetles or something like that. Nobody want to do that. Like, oh my goodness, like they come to respect too. Like clean, making sure your house is clean. Respect goes a long way.
Somebody else wanted to chime in on that.
Yes, I experienced one of my neighbors, he had two big bulldogs and they used to poop everywhere. He don't clean it up. He don't clean it up. It's outside in front of as soon as we go outside our building, you smell it, we see it. Inside the building is everywhere. It's no respect. Um but it took my landlord part what I would say whole year for them to get evicted because they cleanliness wasn't well put together. But we had to deal with that for a whole year, and it was disrespectful. The dog barking, and it was a rule of no pets allowed in his building. So yeah, it was crazy.
All right. So I see some comments that are coming in that came in the chat box. Shanetta said both have a responsibility. And All right, Darius said, and don't wait too long to approach your landlord. That goes back to the previous comment about paying rent on time. And even if there are some issues going on, right? So if as a tenant you're having some issues, or maybe you had guests that came over, and let's say, for instance, somebody had bed bugs. They left bed bugs in your apartment or your home, right? Go ahead and let your landlord know. Don't wait too long to let your landlord know that information. All right, we have some more tips. I see your comments that are coming in, but we have more comments that I do want to share, but let's share another tip for tenants here. We talked about proper trash disposal. How important is that, and who wants to address this here?
I would like to address it because I literally just read a comment about trash. That is so funny. Yes, proper trash disposal is one of the main things to a property. I feel like even when it comes to tenants and disposing their trash, that's just down to the cleanliness. You don't want any type of rodents, any type of insects coming in. So just having that proper trash disposal is just something you should have, I feel like.
So, in addition to proper trash disposal, I'm going to go a little bit extra with this. Take the trash out frequently. Don't let it sit up in your home and pile up until you have nets flying around and it's smelly. It smells like something died in your apartment or your home. Take the trash out frequently. You minimize nets, because when nets come into play, when you have bugs and stuff in the rental home, sometimes it could be a challenge getting rid of it. So if you take care of the small things while they're small, it doesn't grow to something big and major.
And use your essential oils. Peppermint oil is
Mhm.
amazing. Use your essential oils.
All right, absolutely. I love the feedback. Ladies, listen, we have covered a lot today. I hope this was helpful for those of you who are watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. This was a panel discussion talking about proactive property management, inspections, and repairs. We shared tips for landlords, but we also shared tips for tenants. I was blessed and honored to have a panel of some amazing women. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you all enjoyed it, because I definitely enjoyed you being on today. I see that I have a lot of my students in the chat box chiming in. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Listen, our time is up, and we thank you for yours. I'm going to ask each of you ladies to unmute yourself and give one closing statement to everybody before we log off.
Oh. So my closing statement is just make sure you're very mindful as a tenant, and also if you become a landlord, just make sure you're very mindful, respecting everyone's boundaries and respecting the agreement of the lease slash contract that you all signed, um, and also be knowledgeable of your house regulation codes, and also educate yourself with tenant laws as well. So that's my closing statement. I'm Marquita.
Thank you so much, Marquita.
I just wanted to tell everybody, piggyback on what Marquita said. Also, just knowledge yourself. What tenants do, what landlords, so what tenants doing wrong, what landlords doing wrong, because landlords do try to take advantage, and we as a people, as women, we need to step up, because my landlord, he takes advantage, and um today it made me also be a knowledge and learn things, and things that I could do for myself to make my home better. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, LaDasia.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. This was great. I enjoyed you ladies. I guess my closing statement would be do not do not be scared to ask for help. There's always help out there, and there's always someone willing to assist you with the help. And also, I do want to add in here because Tatiana wasn't able to get on, so I do want to share her closing statement with you all as well. She said, excellence is giving, oh, excuse me, strive for excellence when giving service. Tatiana, peace out. Hello. But I'm Danielle. Yeah.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Tiffany.
I want to say this was very informative and very pleasing. My closing statement would be just always be in the know. Don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of. If you feel like something isn't right, speak on it. Speak up. You have every right because you are a tenant. You're paying your bills on time. You're doing all that you can to make sure everything is good on your end. So make sure you hold your landlord accountable as well.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me.
So this has been an enjoyable evening, time well spent together, having this panel of some amazing women giving you their perspective, their feedback. I hope that as a tenant, this was helpful for you. I hope that as a landlord that you took away something and that you heard the perspective of some tenants as well as students. So I'm just honored to be able to come and share on this platform. Thank you so much for tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. And just by way of announcements, this is what I do each and every Monday. I am live right here on this platform, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sharing information for landlords. I'm sharing information for tenants. If you ever have questions, you can always come ask your questions online. And if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do that. I absolutely love and enjoy what I do. And again, my time is up. I thank you for yours. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Thank you for all of your feedback. And I hope to see you all next week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to my students, I'll see you back in class. Bye for now.